What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Too Much Test podcast, episode 25. I can't believe we've done 25, but I'm here with Sam Stoltz and David Demesquita. If you're listening to this, we have an awesome YouTube channel where you can see our beautiful faces. If you're watching this on YouTube, we are on all the major podcasting platforms. Drop a sub, click the like, give some props to us. We appreciate the love. You can find Sam on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Look up Sam Stoltz. You can find David on all of those platforms. Look up David Demesquita on YouTube and TikTok, maybe, and then Dynamite_D on Instagram. You can find me on all three of those as Test Your Levels. So what's going on, guys? How are you guys doing today?
Hey, the TYL intros have gotten so much. I'm just going to call you that from now on. The TYL intros have gotten so much better over the last 25 episodes.
I practice them at night before I go to bed.
But that, bro, it's been that. What is that? We're doing one every other week, roughly-ish. That's a year, right?
That's close to. I think we're doing it like 8 or 9 months because we put in a couple other ones as well, like 2 a week or something. But
yeah, it's kind of crazy the feedback actually that I've been personally getting. They're like, one time I think we skipped 1 week by accident, like we just couldn't do it the week, whatever it was. I think Sam was on vacation. You even did one when you're on vacation one time. But there was like 1 week where we just couldn't do it for some reason. And someone's like, when's the next episode releasing? Like, it's so good.
Yeah,
it's going to be going on.
I've gotten a lot of good feedback as well, but we're like the most loved podcast that people will not subscribe to the fucking YouTube channel. Like it's 263. Like I blew up I didn't blow up my YouTube channel, but I got my channel to 1,000 way faster than this one for whatever reason. But I had a quick question for you guys, kind of a weird one. So this question is essentially asking what you think is the most important. So if you could only take one, pretty much like a vitamin for the rest of your life, like only vitamin C, vitamin D, maybe like zinc, not like a multivitamin. Like if you could take one, what do you think is the most important supplement for someone to take? I'll start, I guess. I'll let you guys ponder. I had a few minutes to think about this while I wrote the question. I would probably personally go with vitamin D just because of how important it is, and we don't get enough of it. And now we obviously know skin cancer is bad. Back in the day, cavemen weren't expecting to live to their 70s and 80s. So you get a little melanoma or something, whatever, you're going to die anyway.
Before David answers and I answer, did you know that skin cancer is like a modern phenomenon, that we didn't used to get skin cancer and it's people's lifestyle? Like I heard a doctor talking about the research on this, and skin cancer is like a modern phenomenon that's happened because of our lifestyle, like the shit we're eating, how we're living our life, like whatever plastics and other garbage that we're like around on a daily basis. I literally, before getting onto here, I'm like, wow, I've been sitting inside my house the entire fucking day. Like I went to the gym and I was like, okay, I'm outside for 20 seconds as I get to my car. Okay, 20 seconds going into the gym. And so I've been outside and I was like, after I get done with this, I need to go outside to just be in the open environment because 100 years ago, people were not getting skin cancer. And today it's pretty common. You know what I mean? I was like, that's super fascinating, but it makes perfect sense because of how we live our lifestyle. I just said, like, I spent the whole entire day inside the house, and that never would have happened 40 years ago. Like you wouldn't spend the whole day inside your house. So
that I'm Greek, and me driving to the gym and back, sometimes I get sunburned. I'm not making it up. I never go outside so much to the point where I get sunburned driving to the gym, which is a 4-minute drive out.
I went to the beach like 2 weeks ago, and I put suntan lotion everywhere except for I forgot my shins. I got distracted. I didn't do the shins at the top of my feet, and my skin is peeling right now. It was so shitty. My wife did the spray on my back, and it's all fucking splotchy. So I had some red spots, some good spots. I hate that spray. That shit sucks.
I try not to use the sunblock. But David, what is the one thing that you think is a
so there's like two. There's two that are
just
burning
one.
at me.
Just one. I know it's tough.
Two.
Mine's gonna be different. I'm gonna do one that's different than both you guys.
I want Sam to answer because like this isn't. Oh my gosh.
It seems like Tren or Rad 140.
The basics.
Like a supplement, not testosterone. Right?
Yeah, I actually prefer suppository dianabol to bypass the liver.
Just like an IV of it, right? You just carry the IV around with you. It's duct taped to your back, like one of those straps you wear with your like
a camelback.
Yeah,
a camelback.
That's what I'm thinking about.
But full of steroids.
Sam,
awesome.
do you have your answer?
Yeah.
Okay, you go, and then I'll go because I'm like it's literally like two that are burning at me and I think I'm going with the one that I actually wasn't originally going to go with.
Okay, so I originally thought that was the first thing that came to my mind. I was like vitamin D, and then I went to the CDC list of the top killers of Americans, and it's heart disease, right? Which has like one of the big things behind our heart disease is your lipids. So then I was like, okay, niacin. I think niacin could tremendously help a lot of people's lipid profile. And that is one of the leading, I think it's the leading killer according to the CDC is heart disease, which is like, a broad category for a bunch of other related stuff to the heart. So I would say niacin, but vitamin D was definitely the first place my mind went when you asked that question. Did you decide? What do you guys think of niacin? Like, you know what I mean? D3 because nobody else is going to think that.
Yeah, so B vitamins are all pretty cool. Like it's so interesting. Like every B vitamin has literally a different name, and then like with niacin, you're like B3. You're like, wait, niacin B3? I'm sorry, David. I think we need to call out the elephant in the room. David, if you're listening to this, is sitting in a chair, and he's got this gargantuan like dinner plate that he's wearing as a ring on his finger, like he's just like flashing it around, ready, waiting to punch somebody. But sorry, go ahead. I just had to call that out for everybody who was listening in. So we'll talk about why I have this in a few minutes. It's actually my ADHD like calms me down. I've been like rolling into my hand like for the past like week.
I think it's like one of those. I think it's one of those rings where you can like open it up and you can hide like little Diana ball pills in there, and no one ever knows it. That's what
my suppositories.
As a kid, it's ready to go. And you just bring your pre-workout, flip it open.
Pre-workout.
It's actually an open injector. Like you flip it open and actually like has it ready to suppository.
So you were saying niacin, and then I interrupted you. So go ahead.
No, I think niacin's a good one. It's definitely not one that would even be in my top 10 though, for sure. But I think that it's like, I just wouldn't have thought about it, but really, really good. A lot of cool uses for it, honestly. And there's so many different types of niacin as well. And it can't help. So, I mean, it's niacin just one thing that I don't really have in my stack. As phenomenal as it is, I'm very selective with different B vitamins. Like B6, like we had a long conversation about that, but B6 is one that stays in my diet, and that's about it.
What would be like the top one supplement that you would pick?
Okay, so the one supplement I would pick that would help you with a lipid profile. I would help you with lipid profile as well. That I believe is the best, period, for longevity, lipid, heart support, everything. Curcumin. That is my number one.
I'm gonna have to look into that one. That's also paired with like turmeric, right? Or does that come?
Yeah, same thing, basically. It's an active ingredient.
Yeah, turmeric breaks down into curcumin in the body. One thing though is you do have to pair it with biopurine to drive it in, or else it has a really low absorption rate, unfortunately. But curcumin is my number one, and I'll just let you know, and I want to ask your opinion on that. And then my number two, and I'm just going to give you it, is magnesium. Magnesium, I had it number one, and I flipped into curcumin because of the longevity factors that are involved with that in particular versus magnesium.
Interesting.
The curcumin also affects, I think it's like serotonin and dopamine. I don't remember which one it is, but like for antidepressant stuff, like there's an enzyme that breaks down, it starts with an M, but it breaks down serotonin and it breaks down dopamine or something along those lines. And this is like a PDE5 inhibitor, but for the enzymes that break down dopamine and serotonin, I believe, if I remember correctly. But that's a good one. That's a very good one that it's definitely not in my routine. You know what would be kind of interesting actually is if we went through and just kind of like the repertoire of vitamin supplements that you're taking? Because I would bet that the overlap, there's a couple things that are overlapping across the board between us, but I bet there would be a bunch of things that you're taking that I'm not taking, and vice versa. And understanding the nuances between those would probably be very interesting.
We should do a whole episode on that, just on our stacks. And we should like bring our bottles out and hold them up and talk about the brands.
We'll do that next time.
I did want to ask, so I'm glad I asked that question because niacin was not on my list at all. Curcumin didn't even cross my mind. I was between vitamin D, vitamin C, and then I was like, well, I can get vitamin D from the sun, but I could also get vitamin C from fruits and stuff like that. And as we discussed, fruits are bright and colorful because we're supposed to eat them. So that's why we're evolutionary supposed to eat them. But B vitamins, they're so interesting in that there's so many of them. That inositol was a B vitamin at one time, but now it's not because they found the body can make it. I have the hexacobalamin, not the cyanocobalamin for B12. I can't remember exactly, but it's a different version of B12 essentially. But Empower has a B complex, and the next time I order B12, I'm going to get that. It's an injectable B complex with, I don't know exactly which vitamin Bs it has, but it has a good chunk of them. And so I was like, if I'm going to be injecting B12, I might as well throw in the other B vitamins, probably like niacin, B6, whatever those ones are. So I don't know. B vitamins are pretty cool. And it's interesting. They're the only ones that we can't really make. So, we have to get them from diet.
Have you guys looked into vitamin B4? I think I messaged you the other day or last week about it, but somebody messaged me about it and I haven't dove into it yet, but it looked fascinating. So this is just from Google, but what is vitamin B4, right? And it's androgen. It plays a crucial role in protein synthesis and accompanying chemical processes. So I was like, ooh, that could be very interesting. And literally, the first time he like sent me a message about it, I was like, this is the first time I've actually, unless we talked about it here or something, this is the first time I've ever like looked into B4. And if it's involved in protein synthesis, I don't know, that could be very interesting addition to, all the other stuff that we do or we're involved in, Oh. Have you ever looked into that, David? Right, it's pretty fucking fascinating.
No. Like that's that's fascinating. I have not looked into this, and it's funny because like I googled it just to like look at it, and it's funny because if you look at the first link, it's pulling B4, right? The second and third link, it just skips over B4 all around. Like almost all of them are skipping over B4. Like
correct.
Why does it?
If Google's skipping it, it probably means that's the best one.
I think you actually have the correct answer there. That is 100% correct. Let me go to DuckDuckGo and see.
Because when Dad Bod was on here, he was talking about how B13 was supposedly illegal because it's like anti-cancer. And I looked up. I tried DuckDuckGo. I tried Brave, and I couldn't find really anything on B13. And then I did see that there was a B17, and I was like, B17. I was like, I've never even heard of that shit. But I've been meaning to look into that. But while you guys are looking that's what made me think of it, because I just couldn't remember the B that Dad Bod talked about. I was like, was it B4 that he talked about? But you said it was B13. But he said B13. I could only find B17, but he was saying that people were like flying to Mexico to get large amounts injected of that stuff to help like cure cancer. So we're gonna have to look up that because and we'll have to get back. But what's up? Just while you guys are doing research, I know I can see Dave, his eyes are going. He's got his little Power Rangers ring on, sparkling and shit. But I recently switched deodorants. So I know this is random, but you see where I'm going with this. So I was using I don't know, like fucking Gillette or Right Guard. I mean, I don't really care that much what it is. I'm not a super, super stinky, sweaty guy, but I'm looking at the bottle and it's like, provides 72 hours of protection. And I'm like, oh, well, that's great because I don't fucking shower for 3 days, all the time. But like, so I'm taking a shower and like I'm using soap on my armpit. And like, it's just like the soap it's not doing anything because it's all that aluminum shit that's in my armpit. And then, so I have to wash my armpit twice to get all that shit off. And then it feels, that dry feeling from antiperspirant. It's on my hands. And I'm like, why am I rubbing this shit on myself? Like, it's not natural for something to stay on your skin for 72 hours. And it blocks your lymph nodes up and all that. So I found out that Arm & Hammer basically makes one with magnesium instead of aluminum and some other like natural scents and stuff. And this stuff wipes right off. Now, it's not as good as regular deodorant, but I mean, you know, I don't know. What do you guys going antiperspirant free? What are you guys using?
I have a very, very different take than like 97% of the world on this because I don't really ever use soap. Like, I think that I started back when I was like 17, 18 or 19, right around that time period. When I shower, I don't just use soap, like maybe soap on my crotch and stuff once a week or something, or like maybe twice a week, but I'd rather just use it to exfoliate. I don't think that putting something that is artificial, full of chemicals, this is like back in the day, right? I don't think putting that on my body every day, twice a day for the rest of my life is an intelligent thing to do because it's going to absorb just like the aluminum. You're like having it on your skin for that long. Well, I guarantee you're absorbing some of that shit without you realizing it just over time. And that's how I feel about that. Now, the deodorant thing is very interesting because it's literally been on my mind this past couple of days. I was like, damn, I should do something about this deodorant. I should change something up about my deodorant because I use a spray for this spray one just so I find that I prefer over like other one, but I literally have no idea what's in it. I'm sure it's toxic and it's bad for it. I'm putting bad money on it. What's a strange thing, like habit you have hygiene wise or thing like that? Like, I don't use soap. What are some other things that you guys have strange like that you do?
I fucking just in general, I hate if I'm like have soap on my hands. I hate that feeling of the soap still being there. So that's probably one of the reasons why I don't like that deodorant still being there. So like if I wash my hands and put soap on there, like I've got my hands under the water for like a while. So where that soap is, there's no soap on my hands.
Yeah. So I used to actually not wash my hair because the natural oils are like super good for your hair. And every once in a while, I would put like olive oil in it like once a week kind of thing, and then rinse it out and stuff like that. So more condition it. But now I do because of the hair loss. Like I have a hair loss protocol that I do, and part of it is shampooing it actually. So now I do. But the weirdest one for me is probably lotion. I make this funny joke about like, I don't have lotion hands. Like I hate lotion on my hands, kind of like you with soap. I hate lotion on my hands. Like I like having rough hands. And if I have like, it feels like they swell because my hands get pruned really easily. So I hate the feeling of like any type of moisture on my hands. So like I always make a joke to Caroline. I'm like, I don't have lotion hands, so you have to put the lotion on me if you want me to wear lotion. So I force my wife to put lotion on me.
Do you guys use lotion besides like in the bedroom? Do you use it like for anything? I don't ever use lotion.
For me, I have kind of drier skin, so after I get out of the shower and I shave, I'll use lotion on my face, on my ears, because your ears catch a lot of sun, back of my neck, and then my hands and kind of elbows. I don't do like full body, but those are the spots that I hit.
Do you use it, David? Do you use lotion regularly?
So I used to when I was in college, and then I just started hating the feeling of it on my hand. Like no joke, hated the feeling of it on my hands. And I didn't do it for a while, and then now I get ashy. Like no joke, like my black friends literally make a joke of me because I get ashier than that. I look like I have a lizard skin in the wintertime. It's bad. So I will get painfully like where my skin will like sometimes bleed and crack. I mean, you've seen my elbows before. They're terrible. Yeah. And the BPC 157 that you do have did help me. So thank you. And just a shout out to Trigger right there. And
link down below or my bio.
Yeah, so when Caroline is in the room and we're getting ready for bed or something like that, she'll put it, or if I jump out of the shower, she'll remind me because I just don't have it part of my routine anymore. But it does make a big difference, especially for anti-aging, because especially when you're talking about like collagen synthesis as it reduces over time, you want to make sure that skin stays as elastic as you can before like it literally starts like drooping and getting wrinkles. And in my family in particular, like my dad has it, my grandmother had it, like the same exact wrinkle lines, and I look just like my father. So like the neck is a really important part in the face more than anything else. The rest of the body is like not as important unless you're like me and you just have like lizard skin. So
do you like, I don't know. I've never really gotten into that whole arena type of stuff or paid attention to any of the like skin type of stuff other than like I use BPC on my skin sometimes if it's like, you know, cracking or things like that. And I'm testing something with GHK-Cu. By the way, this is like super fascinating. I don't think we've talked about it yet. So GHK-Cu is the peptide that's naturally in your body, and it's, you know, got a ton of safety data on it. It's also got a brickload of positive effects from like anti-cancer, anti-pain, like wound healing, anti-inflammation, like just goes on and on and on. So I'm testing it for hair right now. It's a topical one. So I'll put it on when I get out of the shower, right? Kind of like that W. If you're looking like a widow's peak, you can think of like this W, right? So I just put it on there. I'm testing for 90 days to see if I notice anything with pictures and stuff. And I got a cold sore, so I don't get cold sores very often. I had no idea why. I woke up in the morning, I felt that tingle like on my lip. So I go look in the mirror, and there's a cold sore that's starting on my lip. So I was like, let me try this. And throughout that day, whenever I would remember to do it, and I was going to the bathroom, I just put just the tiniest little drop right above it, so it dropped the GHK, go down into it. And like the last time I got one, maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, I feel like it was like a week or maybe 2 weeks before it completely healed. And it was gone in 4 days. Like, I was like, holy balls, this is crazy. 4 days it was gone. I also took like video to like document the process. I was astonished at how quickly it went away. I just kept, when I would get up and shower and when I go to bed and shower, or if I did remember during the day, I didn't always remember, but I just put a little drop right above it on like where it was on my lip, and it was gone in 4 days. Incredible. I couldn't believe how quickly it healed. It was pretty crazy. Have you guys?
Bro, peptides are awesome. I mean, I think eventually, like, you know, there maybe even like at some point they would have like a mixture of like BPC, TB500, GHK in little tiny mini auto injectors. So for something like a cold sore, you just put it on there and it's just like a little, you know, I mean, just little shit like that. I think, I don't know, man. It's crazy that peptides are so powerful, but like there's very few of them are like approved by the FDA and ever like marketed. You know, it's like it's such an interesting form of medicine. A lot of these things that are naturally in our body that help our body naturally do good things. And because they're not patentable, they can't be turned into pharmaceutical medicine, and they can't be sold to the public as a product to be used. So we're just going to kind of toss these amazing compounds like BPC, TB, just out the window, just push them in the closet and push them to the PED community because they're not one or the other. I don't know. It's crazy. I was watching Dopesick. I don't know if you guys watched that show. Well, Sam, I know you haven't watched that show. It's basically about OxyContin, the whole from start to finish about it getting approved by the FDA, how they marketed it as being, you know, not addictive. That was the big thing. Yeah, that's how it was marketed. It was marketed, and I mean, I know some of this is probably a little dramatized because it's a TV show. You know, it's from, I think it's on Hulu, but they had their little protective coating over the pill, which made it slow release. And so, what their marketing ploy was that you'll have more of a less peaks and valleys. It'll be a smoother ride, so the patient will be less likely to get addicted. But when you look at the chart, they took like 30 to 50 milligrams, and it's like on one like distance on the scale, and then like 50 to 100 is like shrunk down, so it looks like a much more even plane less like this. But long story short, it's like you've got people that are making billions of dollars that are just looking at any possible angle, wording on the packaging so that they can sell the most of it without FDA. It's nuts. It's really nuts.
So I will have some peptide videos coming out here soon. It's been a while since I've actually put out peptide videos, and so many people have been asking for it. In fact, I'm going to be finally doing my peptide experiments again. for a longevity focus. But because I am so dieted down right now, I'm in a very vulnerable and awesome position to do these experiments with cognitive functionality and peptides. So there are some peptides that I've never personally taken, and I'm going to be creating basically peptide / nootropic combinations and seeing how it actually affects people during prep and different ways where you don't need to rely on stimulants to keep your cognitive focus, maybe even pain-killing effects, recovery effects. I mean, so you're talking about GHK and BBC 157. Well, one, I knew they weren't going to get FDA approved because it's anti-cancer. I already knew that was coming down the pipe. I just did a podcast with the doctor the other day, and he's like, he won't even talk about peptides right now because the FDA is coming down on them. It's done. Like, I'm surprised they even got some of them through, to be honest. So yeah, I'm really excited to actually do some of these peptide experiments again. It's been a long time, and there's a lot of peptides that are phenomenal that have kind of more come to light. But GHK and BBC 157, they're actually finding out it can literally be anabolic to a degree. And this is things that people are not talking about because it's so anti-inflammatory that it actually helps you recover so much quicker that it can be used as an anabolic compound. Now, it might be super dosing amounts, but when you have a substance that has no downsides to it, even in large dosages, they still have not found negative ramification from BBC and GHK. It's just only benefit. Now, one of the issues, and I'd be really curious to see how they go about with the experiments later on, because peptides are more like one of the things that I would like to see, like longevity research where you have years and years of data, which you have years and years of testing on it, but they don't have years and years of data. I'm really curious to see if they stop doing like the 90-day trials that they always do, like with vitamins and stuff like that. It's always 90-day trials.
Have you looked into, that's interesting, about like potentially utilizing peptides during prep instead of stims? Because first of all, I think that's a way healthier approach, like just longevity and just in the immediacy, like it's just a better healthy option in my opinion than stims, because people don't realize, like we've talked maybe probably 6 months ago and I was like, oh yeah, sometimes I take a gram of caffeine. Right. So as like the person who's talking about taking that, right? Well, so I have been taking caffeine since I was 19, caffeine pills, because it was the most efficient way for me to do it. And I've stopped completely taking them 100%. I take a black tea first thing in the morning, and maybe I'll have some like pre-workout at the gym around 8 a.m. But that will sometimes be it. Maybe I'll have a green tea a little bit later, but that'll be it. And transitioning more so to other things that don't have the negative side of it. But somebody actually just ordered some semaglutide, which you think it's a GLP-1, I think it's a GLP-1 antagonist. I don't remember exactly. But basically it can reduce your appetite. So that's how like a lot of people are utilizing it, but it's also fantastic for reducing blood sugar levels and increasing insulin sensitivity. So there's some interesting data out there around semaglutide relative to Parkinson's, semaglutide relative to Alzheimer's, and the cognitive benefit. So getting back to that order, somebody places an order, knows how to stop.
I knew he was going to go out. His connection dropped.
Yeah, it was looking a little rough. You were talking about semaglutide, or what is it?
Yeah, so semaglutide.
It's like diabetes, right?
Yeah, it was essentially a diabetes peptide. It's very cool. That one is FDA legal, by the way. There's about, I think, 6 different manufacturers of it. Semaglutide is the most common one right now. And then
it's a peptide? It's a peptide?
It's a peptide. It's a GLP-1 agonist. So that stands for glycogen-like peptide 1. I don't know what the 1 stands for, but essentially what it does is it slows down the stomach's transference. Well, at least when you inject it, right? It slows down the transference of the carbs essentially into the liver to convert it to glycogen. So it slows down the uptake process. So people that are diabetics that can't absorb the blood glucose fast enough and they have extra blood glucose within their bloodstream, when you slow down that process, they have less blood glucose in their bloodstream now, and it's also helping with the uptake of the glycogen now. So it's been a way of not having to put people on metformin. And what Sam was alluding to was the weight loss. And the reason for the weight loss has nothing to do with anything else other than the fact that the stomach feels more full. That's literally it. And they're actually playing around with the dosages. So for weight loss, I think for the purposes of the diabetic side of it, it's 1.2 milligrams per week, I believe, is the prescribed amount. It's 0.6 to 1.2. The weight loss dosage that I was doing research on was 2.4 milligrams per week, which is quite a bit of semaglutide. Like, it gets expensive when you're taking that much. And it's something that I actually just implemented as of yesterday, because we were just talking about my competition diet, how low my calories are. Like, I'm currently at 2,100 calories and 2,100 calories. And then on my off days, like 1,600 calories, which is, and I'm 200-pound bodybuilder, like lean. So yeah, it's definitely something to look at. I haven't seen really an appetite suppressing effect from it. So I don't know if it's worth it. So it's just something that I wanted to utilize to see if it's worth it, the time and the money to even use it for people. Again, I'm doing peptide experiments in the very near future. And that was like the first one I wanted to try out, because it just helps with the appetite suppressing. It's not appetite suppressing, but yeah, you get it on it.
How much, when you say expensive, how much is that? What's expensive for that stuff?
I get it cheaper than other people are going to get it for, but I believe that it probably runs most people around like $300 per bottle of 2.5 milligrams.
Oh, so you're talking about $1,200 a month.
But between $200 to $300. Now, the thing is, this stuff gets covered by insurance. Like, you can get it scripted from your doctor for it. You can also get it through your HRT clinic. Again, I get my stuff pretty cheap, so it might be like $200. But my scripted amount that I have on my semaglutide is 0.25 milligrams per week. So my bottle is going to last me literally 10 weeks. If I run at that amount, right? So I'm not doing the weight loss dosage amount. I'm not even doing the diabetic dosage amount. I'm doing a very minute amount. And again, I have not seen a filling effect on my stomach. But again, completely different dosages than what I'm doing. And I will give further feedback, because maybe I'll increase my dose. I'll see if I can get scripted more of it. So Sam, I was kind of closing out your thoughts on GLP-1, because I started on semaglutide. Wednesday, so 2 days ago.
But you know what's interesting? And the only reason I know about that medicine, I'm not really that big into it. I've heard it in passing, but I was listening to I think it was a Joe Rogan podcast. Anyway, someone was talking about how Mark Cuban, he bought a compounding pharmacy that is really the main thing that they compound is diabetes type medicine, metformin, semaglutide, however the hell you guys say it, and insulin. And his idea for this pharmacy is that he will sell medicines to you at cost plus 15% markup. That's his thing. So his main thing is fucking insulin. Insulin is ridiculously expensive. Supposedly it costs like $1 or $2 to make a vial of it, and it sold for $1,000. So he's looking to sell it to you like a bottle of insulin for like $3. And
that's true. That's amazing. That's so awesome.
Yeah, Sam, your internet is fucked.
Yeah,
you look like the AT&T commercial where the lady's like, she's showing her sister her brand new baby, and the lady's face ends up like, and she's like, you're such an asshole. But say, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you want to hit up like Ethernet or something. But yeah, but either way. But yeah, that just goes. I mean, dude, medicine's so fucked, and it's really one of the things that just irks me so much is that insulin's been around since what, like the 50s, something like that, maybe before that. I mean, it's something that people need to live. And I actually saw there's some group in like France. They're trying to make insulin in a new way, and so that it can't be patented and that it's open source essentially. So like that, us as a species, we have developed something that saves people's lives, and we have put barriers around it for people's lives to make profit for like 70, 80 years. And someone has to find a brand new way to make this life-saving medicine and to make it open source just so that it's not $1,000 a month for a bottle. That's insane.
Can I just relate that to something really fast? So, the really sad part about this is as soon as they get this done, you're never going to hear their names because they're going to disappear off the face of the planet, just like the guy that made a car that can run off of oxygen and convert it to water.
I've heard that before. I've never looked into it.
He disappeared off the face of the planet. That's why you never heard about it.
Or like the strange things that happened around Nikola Tesla and free energy and like all of that kind of stuff. It's pretty crazy. I think like when you were talking about that, it reminded me of like, what if kind of like blockchain type technology was applied to medical stuff so that it was open source. You mentioned open source. Because in crypto, you have the code that is open source that anybody can take and tweak, right? So you make something and you're like, oh, wow, this is super successful. So I'm like, oh, wow, he did that. I can take that same exact code and I can apply it over here and I'll change these things to make it even better, right? And what if that was how the like medical world worked instead of the way that it is currently, where they have all these perverse incentives to like destroy people's lives and just, do shit that's not good.
In a perfect world, that would be amazing. The closest thing that you can probably get to that is either YouTubing people that are really forward thinking, or B, going over to China and learning about Chinese herbal medicine, which is like 15 PhDs combined together, because Chinese herbal medicine is essentially medication that we find in the natural abundant environment. And it's phenomenal because almost all medications are something that has naturally been found in the environment and modulated. So they have these conjunctions of natural things that accomplish something usually actually better than something unnatural. And Sam, we'll jump into the podcast when you want to do the metformin one, but there's a study that just came out recently, yet again, that backs up berberrine's better. Wow.
When you were talking about that, and I was right when I was like cutting out. So GLP-1, there's positive like cognitive nootropic type of benefits to it. But there was a study that just came out on metformin, and it showed that it was like 15,000, right? 15,000 people or something. I don't know, a large sample size, a relatively large sample size, where the children of men who took metformin for a prolonged period of time had some type of some type of birth defect, right, or something along those lines. I was like, this is crazy.
It's actually metformin. This is the sad part. Metformin, within 3 months of pregnancy, is creating birth defects, is what they're finding out. 3 months. That's
so
scary.
Berberine, way to go. Right? But that's what you were literally just describing. I think we all kind of like know this intrinsically. Like the things that are naturally in the environment are probably way better for you in terms of the effects and the side effects. When you look at those two together, like, because you can't just look at one and just not even think about the other, because it's just a foolish thing to do, right? So when you look at both sides of the equation, the natural thing is just like a lot better in a lot of situations. And
my doctor the other day brought up God, about being the centerpiece, whether you believe in God or not, or maybe you believe in a higher being, whatever it is. Things are put on this planet for a particular reason. And one thing that you need to ask yourself is why? Why am I here today? Why am I given this? Why am I given this? Why is this there? Why have I met this person? Why? There is no rhyme or reason to it, but there is reason to it. And we are given everything that we would ever need in our environments around us, the people, the resources. We have abundance. And if you can't see that, you're living in a fake world of your cell phone right here. This is what this cell phone's meant for, is literally to make us forget that you can look outside and you can survive if you need to. You can look up at the sky and be grateful for the sky being beautiful today. Whatever it is, go back to the roots.
It's crazy, but it's so true.
Speaking of natural things that work really well, I just had this come in yesterday.
Oh, so describe this for people who are listening in. He's holding up a bottle and it says no fab on it. Is that what it says? No fab?
I don't want to do like a shameless plug, but it did kind of work in, and I am kind of pretty happy with this. But the product that I created is called No AI, and AI stands for aromatase inhibitor. And so, I mean, if you're in the TRT world, you know, Arimidex, it was a cancer medication. It's 7 milligrams a week for women, meant to basically eradicate estrogen. But it's overprescribed. It's prescribed a lot in TRT. So what I did is, like you were saying, you know, all the supplements that are known to help with estrogen management, I put in here dindomethylane, calcium D-glucarate, which is my personal favorite, indole 3-carbinol, and then grapeseed extract. And then there's something called bioperin, which is actually a patented black pepper extract. Who owns it? Trademark of the Sabinsa Corporation. But you'll see that bioperin in a lot of stuff. And apparently it's been shown to help with the oral bioavailability of a lot of different herbs and supplements. So I thought it'd be a good idea to put something together naturally to see, you know, some guys maybe do need Arimidex, but maybe you can take these herbs that have lots of other they have antioxidant properties, lots of other good health stuff instead. So that's what I did. Shameless plug. Definitely don't go to HC Gains and buy that. There's definitely not a special with free turkesterone, but you know, Coach Greg, buy my freaking cookbook.
Let me hype you up. Let me hype him up really fast. He's doing a sales pitch, so I'm going to hype up his sales pitch really fast. I have labs to back up not your product, but a similar conjunction. He's done a great job formulating this product. I saw it. I got to see it before he even talked about it. I would highly recommend looking into this. I have done interesting conjunctions a little bit differently than his different dosages with certain supplements. It's because it's obviously bio-individualized what I was doing with people, and including myself. Kudos to you. And then on top of it, I have shown time and time again that these natural things are more effective than aromatizer inhibitors. There is a time and a place for them, and sometimes they need to be run in conjunction for a short period of time. But the whole goal is that you never need to rely on aromatizer inhibitors ever again. And it also does something great, which is good pathways for estrogen, which aromatizer inhibitors do not do. They just block you from aromatizing testosterone. Okay, done.
So Dim, I'm not aware of a lot of the I mean, I've heard maybe just the names in passing. Obviously, you know what Dim is, and kind of like greasing the pathways. What was the second compound you mentioned in there? How does that work differently than Dim? Do you know?
See, I don't know the science like that. I don't want to give myself this like crazy credit to where like I'm this scientist, like the guy that runs Morphogen, who like knows all this different shit and how it works. It's just I know that all three of these herbs are used. I've used DIM. DIM didn't really do a whole lot for me personally. Calcium D-glucarate I did like. Not that I don't need an aromatase inhibitor, but I did. I'd say the only side effect I get from higher estrogen is like if I'm watching a dog dies in a movie, you know, my eyes will get a little watery, you know, or if something happens, I'll get a little bit more emotional than I typically would, but I'm not really breaking out. I mean, I'm fucking chubby, so retaining water means nothing to me. Not like you guys that are shredded in the gym, but the indole 3-carbinol L3C that comes from basically DIM and indole 3 come from cruciferous vegetables, and so in a theory, so let's say we're cavemen, right? And we're walking around with 2,000 test levels. Our estrogen levels are high, but we're living off the land. We're not eating fucking McDonald's. We're not eating Taco Bell. We're eating vegetables. We're eating the fruits. You know, all that natural stuff is meant to do stuff to help us. You know, if you look at the world. There are fish. There's a little fucking seahorse, a pink little seahorse with little white dots. And it's like this big. It's like the size of a dime. And it only lives on one type of coral. And it looks exactly like that little piece of coral. Like that's millions and millions and millions of years of perfection. Our bodies are very similar in that we have evolved over millions and millions of years. And we have learned to thrive in our environment. It is only when we have disrupted the way that we do shit normally and poisoned our body and our land to where we have cancer all the time. You know, we're dying of all these crazy diseases and it's shit. Like you said, maybe skin cancer. We were out in nature. We were eating good shit. We were in the sun. We were exercising. Skin cancer wasn't a thing. I've been outside once today, and I was outside of my house to let my dog out to pee. I took a step outside, and I was like, "Oh, that's a nice day." Okay, back inside to my computer. So I don't know. That's why I'm kind of going more toward the natural stuff as much as I can.
Go ahead. I'd like to know how the glucocarbonate one.
I can talk about it in a second. Okay. I did just want to talk about evolution though, because I want to talk about testosterone levels because this is going to come on the podcast and you'll hear the doctor talk about it though. The testosterone scale is based off of the ages of 20 up until like 80 years old average. It's an average. That's where that scale comes from. That's where they get like hypogonadism, the average of hypogonadism as 283, and they didn't like the number 283, and they eventually rounded it up to 300. That's where that's how your hypogonadism, they rounded up. So then calcium D-glucarate, I'll jump into it really fast. So calcium D-glucarate is very cool and super underrated, and I have lots of tricks with it. But that being said, it essentially helps to get out that estrogen. In short, it helps to excrete estrogen out of your system, literally, because we excrete 50% of our estrogen out. So it essentially helps you get it out of the body. Think about it as like an NAC or something like that, where it's a detoxing tool. Think about it as like an estrogen detox, right? It's not going to block anything. It's not going to pathway anything, but it is going to get out that bad estrogen from your system. So it's pretty cool stuff. DIM just helps with good pathwaying. You're like, I think it's always funny. I always used to find it funny back in the day. Hey man, what do you think about this natural aromatase inhibitor, PCT supplement? Like, what do you think about this? And every single time, like I see like DIM as the major ingredient, I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to do anything for you.
Well, so I'll read. I'll actually remember verbatim what I know about calcium D-glucarate. Yeah. Calcium D-glucarate is a chemical. It is similar to a naturally occurring chemical called glucaric acid. Glucaric acid is found in our bodies as well as in fruits and vegetables such as oranges, apples, Brussels sprouts, broccoli. See, there's those cruciferous vegetables. Blah blah blah. It is used. Calcium D-glucarate is used for preventing breast, prostate, and colon cancer and for removing cancer-causing agents, toxin, and steroid hormones from the body.
Wow.
So like that's something I would much rather have someone taking a gram of that a day than 2 milligrams of Arimidex, which is hurting your bone density, and we don't have long-term studies on it in men. So I don't know, natural stuff. And I think a lot of the future supplements is going to be like, I have to give props to Morphogen. I mean, I've seen Tony Hughes has kind of done it a little bit. Him, and I'm sure Morphogen, they were probably kind of like the first people that kind of did this, but now a lot of other people are doing it, like myself, being completely unoriginal, but like putting together supplements for specific purposes. Morphogen. Well, they have the what the fuck is it? For joints and stuff, they have different supplements that are just for like joint relief, joint pain relief, stuff like collagen, stuff like that. And I think that's a pretty cool way of moving into the supplements. It's kind of a mixture of old medicine, Chinese medicine, and supplements.
Do you guys? What's that?
I said my code's David10.
Yeah, I like Morphogen supplements. I think they're pretty solid.
I haven't checked them out yet, but I think that how supplements are just supplements because they're not putting money behind them and then changing them slightly to make them into a drug to sell for way more money. But, in the community that we're in, we see people will test supplements and then do blood work beforehand and do blood work afterwards. But as that could be like the open source thing that starts to, and we've already seen it. How many times have we seen somebody's blood work after they did something, right? You're like, that's interesting. Do a little bit more research into it, talking to more people, and then you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to test this for myself, right? And we see this like happening. I think No AI is awesome. That sounds like a fantastic product. Like, I think that would be great, especially because we all know AI is way overused in the TRT bodybuilding community.
It's kind of interesting, and I don't want to go down this path of this, but like finasteride is very similar kind of to AI and kind of how it blocks DHT like systemically in the body. So that's why I know that there's a couple doctors that don't really like finasteride because you're basically you know, your I don't know if it's exactly the same like the aromatase enzyme. I'm not really, but anyway, but it's blocking it systemically in the body, in the brain, in your different organs, in the hair. That's why I think a lot of doctors kind of go for the topical. I don't think we really know, like, another random thing. I don't think we know when we block certain processes from happening in our body. We don't know what's happening that long term. When I was doing my Cialis video, and I'll shut up, I've been talking a lot in this episode. When I was doing the Cialis video, they're saying that it inhibits the PDE5, whatever it is. But they also said that it inhibits PDE11, and they have no idea what the fuck that does.
Wait, so you'll listen to the podcast. We're jumping into erectile dysfunction drugs at another time, but we went deep into erectile dysfunction drugs, and there's like every single drug hits different like PD blah blah blahs. Like, but Cialis can cause leg pain. Actually, is what he was telling me, because it actually is located in the leg. I think it's PB5, PBE5, or something like that. So yeah, the supplement industry right now. What I want to make people aware and readily available is, if your supplements have not gone up in price that you were buying in 2020 and they're the same price, they are underdosing it, or they were such a high markup on it that they're still making such a large profit margin, but their cost of raws are drastically up. Every raw ingredient, not just one raw ingredient. So I want to make people very aware, if they haven't increased the price of their supplement, you are being, excuse my language, screwed.
Yeah. So I got a quote from BPC, in that, you know, liquid capsules, vials is the biggest like thing that sells, right, for me. And I reached out to a supplier that sells the raws instead of going through like the route that you normally do from a lab. And to get like, I think it was a kilogram, it was like $120,000 for, yeah. I was like, are you serious? Did you like accidentally add an extra zero to that or something? And I was like, I have it in my email. I was like, holy, this is way more than I thought it was for a kilogram. What is that, 2.2 pounds or something? It's insane.
Yeah.
To go back on the finasteride thing, have you guys looked into dutasteride? Because those are, so finasteride, there's two different types of 5-alpha reductase like enzyme locations or enzymes in the body. So there's type 1 and type 2. Finasteride blocks, I think it's type 2, where like type 1 are located in the skin more so than type 2 are. So, but it's like they're throughout the body in many different tissues, but one specifically is in the skin, whereas the skin closely located to the scalp, right? Because in the TRQ community, finasteride is helped used for hair loss stuff. So if you look at like dutasteride and just how it works, it affects the type there's the type 1, which is the one that's located in your skin by your hair and stuff. Then and finasteride doesn't actually affect it, but that shows like how like it's just having such a big effect through there, even though it's not even affecting the 5-alpha reductase enzyme type 1 that is located in your skin by your hair follicles and stuff like that. And I found that fascinating. Also, like the half-life, one is like, I don't know, finasteride's like a day or two or something, where dutasteride is like 4 freaking weeks.
I did a lot of research on finasteride, by the way. So finasteride orally is almost identical to taking it topically, even though they say that topical is different, because it's still absorbed in the skin. Like you were talking about the aluminum, so it's a good segue. The aluminum absorption in the armpits, right? It's the same thing. Everything absorbs. Anything you put on your skin absorbs in the body. Your skin is porous. And if you put finasteride on your scalp, it's going to go into your bloodstream and it's going to start binding to your androgen receptors. It binds to them. It's going to bind. And it's RU58841, however, and I told my doctor about it. He's like, why didn't they ever FDA legalize this drug? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. And RU58841 is topical, works the same exact way that finasteride does, but the affinity for binding is so low that you don't get the side effects like erectile dysfunction and stuff like that. And you can actually use it topically. So, yeah.
It also doesn't systematically lower DHT. Like RU topically just binds to as an agonist to the receptor where DHT is located, but it's not going to actually lower DHT serum levels and have the, like you said, like sex related side effects or cum or ejaculate related side effects like you would with dutasteride or finasteride potentially, depending on the dosing and everything like that. That was the one. RU 5841 was one of the ones that I actually found a lot of success with when I test hair stuff, because you're like, I don't particularly want to take a high dose or even a medium dose or even a small dose consistently of finasteride, but I'll use RU and try that out for a while because it's fascinating, whatever.
And there is a lot of research on finasteride, long-term research, and it's unfortunate because sometimes the long-term of finasteride is erectile dysfunction. It's usually not immediate. It's usually a longer-term thing that happens, and people will be like, oh, I don't get, it's a miracle drug. Like, I got really bad whiplash when I talk about my experience with finasteride and muscle gains. Like, it did affect my muscle gains. And I did talk to someone else that had the same exact experience as me, because I stopped taking it because finasteride in conjunction with DECA makes your hair loss worse. And then with the finasteride, even off DECA, I still was having terrible hair shedding. Like, I literally went up to 3 milligrams, which is close to what you get for like prostate cancer. And I still was getting it. And I stopped taking it. And literally within, no joke, 2 weeks, I put on 6 pounds to 7 pounds of what looked like lean tissue. And it supposedly does not affect muscle gain at all. It supposedly does not affect strength at all. Because DHT is not like testosterone. Testosterone is amazing. It's the king of muscle growth, right? And DHT is not good for muscle growth. Like, we know that. Like, it doesn't. They thought it did, and it doesn't. Because it's on paper 3 times more anabolic. I can tell you right now, finasteride lowered my progress 100%. And within 2 weeks, I just like boom, like I just strength through the roof. And the crazy thing is I was sick, so I could hardly even eat food. So my diet didn't change, my training didn't change. Nothing changed besides I removed finasteride.
Can we, I don't know if you guys want to go into this right now because we're already at an hour, but I've been microdosing Trent. And we can save that for another episode, or we can talk about it here now if you guys want to.
I've got another half an hour if you guys want to do it.
Do you want to stop this and do another episode? Well, okay, so we're going to end this right now. We're going to have another episode. So if you want to learn or hear us talking about trend and testosterone, longer term use, and maybe a higher dose and all the fun stuff related to PEDs, then you have to wait till the next episode. But if you are here now and you've enjoyed this so far, take a second, leave us a review on wherever you're watching this. Take a second, share this with somebody else. If you'd like to watch on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can find us, just search for our names on all the appropriate platforms. David made it a little bit challenging because he spells his name funny on one platform, I think. But other than that, we're pretty easy to find, and we tag each other relatively often, so you can find us through the other person. I appreciate you guys, and come to the next episode.